Hey, it's Mike Gaube with Mike Gaube's Headbangers. On the phone right now, Fred Gorhau, guitarist for not only Wizards of Winter, but Dark Sky Choir. And the interesting thing is, I was just telling you, and I stopped you when you were telling me the story, because this is pretty much what the interview is going to be about. I was like, man, when I met you on the Wizards of Winter tour here in Tucson, our mutual friend Greg Smith, we're all hanging out. I didn't realize you were in Dark Sky Choir, and Muncie, our buddy over at Skateboard Marketing, had just been starting to pimp your record. So as soon as the name came up and then everything kind of came together, I was like, man, could have had a cool interview with you live in person. But as I said, it's hard to do everything and keep on top of everything when you're just a one-man show. So
absolutely, there was a lot going on that night anyway.
Oh, yeah. And dude, I got to tell you, what a cool show that was. Of course, when I talked to Greg, I said, and it was all, with all due respect, it's a stripped-down version of Trans-Siberian Orchestra, but at the same time, you guys have your own thing going on. There's a story behind it. It's the theme and everything, but man, the musicianship is just incredible, and it was a really cool vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, there's no way to not compare it to TSO. I mean, obviously, it's right. Christmas, it's rock. We don't have 45,000 lasers, $5 million worth of lights and stuff like that. So,
right.
But it's still very similar. While we're a lot alike them, we're a lot different too. We're a little more traditional, and we play smaller venues. We're in 1,000 to 1,500 seat theaters and stuff like that, as opposed to big arenas. We would love to do that, but that all takes time.
Well, it also kind of takes away from the intimacy of a smaller place where maybe, I don't know how you see it, if you connect more with your audience, but I think the audience definitely connects more with you for sure.
Yeah, they definitely feel like they're more a part of it when it's a more intimate setting. In a theater, you're closer to the stage and you're not, 200 yards away in the upper decks.
Yeah. You look like you're an inch tall.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, hey, look, is that Fred? I don't know. No, that's not Fred. Oh, there's Fred. So anyway, yeah, that's where we met, the Wizards of Winter. How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that. I think this is the 8th year now, the 8th year that I've been with them. And it's a great show. It started off initially, it was just, a benefit. That's what we were doing. It was, to raise money for a food pantry. And then people were like, hey, where can I buy your album? And we didn't have an album, so we decided we should write one, and that's what we did. And now we've got 2 full-length albums out, and we pretty much play all our own stuff. We were a TSO tribute initially, and then we started weeding down to like doing half their stuff, half our stuff. Now it's pretty much all our stuff. We do a couple of songs here and there that TSO does do, but not that TSO wrote. So it's mostly all our stuff. I think that's 22 songs or 24 songs, 22 of them are ours.
And your current drummer used to be in TSO, as did the narrator, right?
Yep. Yeah, he was. Well, the narrator, Tony, was in TSO for like 12 years. And John, the drummer, was in TSO for I don't know how long, probably about the same amount of time. He was also in Rainbow and Blue Oyster Cult and stuff like that. So definitely a good pedigree of talent on the stage. And I feel very fortunate to be with him.
So you just mentioned Rainbow and Blue Oyster Cult. There's the Greg Smith tie-in.
Absolutely.
That dude has played with like freaking everybody. And you want to talk about running the gamut of musical styles.
It'd be easier to tell you who he hasn't played with. I couldn't go through the list of everybody he's played with. Rather
than tell me who you've played with, tell me who you haven't played with.
Yeah, that'd be about 3.
It'll be easier.
Mm-hmm.
How did Dark Sky... I can't even say it right. Dark Sky Choir. If you say that 5 times fast, I'll give you $1.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, basically, Dark Sky came
about... No, I want you to say it. Fred, I want you to say
Dark
Sky Choir 5 times fast. Go.
Dark Sky Choir, Dark Sky Choir, Dark Sky Choir, Dark Sky Choir, Dark Sky Choir.
Close enough.
That was 5.
I think you flubbed 1, but that's okay. I'll give it to you. Okay, anyway.
So basically how that started out is it was something for me to get out and make noise while I wasn't on tour with the Wizards. The Wizards was, the November and December, and it'll probably always be a November and December thing. That's Christmas holiday season,
Right.
Thanksgiving to Christmas or Thanksgiving to New Year's. The rest of the time, I'd done some cover band stuff, but I was really anxious to get out and play, music that I grew up listening to, Judas Priest and Maiden and Rainbow and all of that stuff. So I contacted my friend Mike, who's the drummer in Dark Sky, and I've known him for like 30 years. I said, let's put together this, metal cover band, and we'll go out and do what we like. So that's what we did. Contacted a couple of local guys, and we put it together. And we started playing the scene here, and we were getting a whole lot of attention. People again started asking, you guys should write some music. My best friend Rick came up to me and said, listen, you guys got to write some music. You got to do an album. I'll manage you. And so I had some songs that were, 2 or 3 songs that were laying around that nothing ever happened with. So I brought them to the table, and we hashed them out and wrote those, and we wrote 5 or 6 more or 7 more, and we went and recorded an album, and it got some attention. We went out with Ace Frehley, and my singer just did not want to tour, Howie, and he's still one of my best friends, and he did not want to be away touring, and we understood that totally. And so my next thought was immediately to call my friend Brian, who is the singer in Dark Sky Choir. I had met him in Germany in 2011 when my old band was playing with his old band. I got lost in Frankfurt Main Airport, and he was coming up the escalator, and he rescued me, and I was like, where's our gate? Because he was flying back to the States. And then we stayed in touch ever since, and we always swore that we were going to play together at some point. And so I called him up. He came out. We did a show, and it went over great. And then we got booked on a Fozzy tour. We went out with Fozzy for, I guess, 5 weeks. And we re-recorded some of the songs off the first album with Brian singing. And then after the Fozzy tour happened, we started getting some really good attention. And there was more tours coming, so we said we needed another album. And I'm talking a whole lot. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna interject here when you're done, though, because already I got stuff to talk about.
And then through doing this, my manager is a phenomenal businessman, and he makes great contacts, and people just want to work with him. And so we ended up hooking up with John Moyer from Disturbed. He's the bass player in Disturbed, and he actually played bass on the Fozzy tour with us. He went out on a tour with us and did the second album with us. And so he wanted to work with us more. So I flew to his house in Austin, and we sat down and wrote another record together. And we did all the pre-production at his house. Came back, and we bumped off, and then we went to El Paso to a place called Sonic Ranch, maybe 40 minutes outside of El Paso. And we were in the desert for 6 weeks, recorded the record. John produced it, and that turned out to be our latest record, End of Days. And then we did a 5-week tour with Monster Magnet right after that. And then I came back, rehearsed for 2 weeks, went out with the Wizards. And then last show with the Wizards was the 29th in New Hampshire. I drove 4.5, 5 hours to get back home because I had a video shoot for Dark Sky the next day. And spent 14 hours on set doing a video shoot. And now we got a show coming up in Jersey in 3 weeks. And then we have another tour starting on April 19th. That's pretty much the history of it.
All right.
In a nutshell, as quickly as I could do it.
So as soon as you said Fozzy, that rang a bell because you played Club Excess here in Tucson with
yes,
Fozzy.
We did.
I missed you guys because I got there late, and I had heard that John Moyer from Disturbed was there. So now I kind of thought this was the band, one of the bands that I missed. And I heard a lot of good things about you guys.
Well, that's great to hear.
Right. And, and that's the honest feedback. I'm not going to BS you. When the fans are telling me, and, I'm a DJ, so they, will value my opinion as well, as much as I would value anybody that's going to tell me that is sitting there in the crowd and listening as a fan, or maybe they've never heard you before and you impress them enough to where they have to, come and tell me, hey, dude, they were really good. So that's the truth. So, and ironically, tonight is Disturbed up in Phoenix with 3 Days Grace, and I was so close to going up there, but The good news is I got you on the phone, but it's kind of a cool tie-in, right? It's kind of
Yeah,
ironic.
well then you won out. That's you got me instead of Disturbed.
But that's all right.
But so I mean, listen, John's great. He's a great friend. He also directed the video that we just did, and yeah, obviously, you know, we're not Disturbed. You know, he helped us out and toured with us and recorded one of the records. But you know, he's got to do his Disturbed thing. So we have a phenomenal bass player now. His name is Percy Trinoff, and he also plays for Madam Mayhem. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're a great band.
No, but now I got to look them up.
Yeah, you got to check them out.
That's right.
So John's a great friend, and he's kind of mentored us, and he's produced for us and directed our video, and we're lucky to have him, and we're happy to have him around because we could benefit from his knowledge between him and my manager. And I'm not gonna lie, I think we got a good solid band with good solid songs.
Well, the thing about John is probably a lot of people don't realize this. He's been around the scene for quite some time, like on Ozfest with Union Underground.
Absolutely.
If I remember correctly, right? I actually interviewed him about 5 years ago when I was doing radio up in Phoenix, and he probably wouldn't remember me, and I barely remember what even we talked about other than John Moyer, Disturbed, Union Underground, stuff like that, right? But It was at a guitar shop that's no longer there anymore, but he seemed like a really cool guy. So there's John. Now, Brian, your vocalist, sang for one of my favorite bands from back in the day, Vicious Rumors.
Vicious Rumors.
Hell
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dude, I got to tell you, man, I got the opportunity to see them on the Digital Dictator tour down here in Tucson, and then the Vicious Rumors tour, the self-titled album tour with Don't Wait For Me and World Church, but both times with Carl Albert. And
oh, wow, how about that?
Oh, my God, what a phenomenal voice he was. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us because of the drunk driver. But I thought that was pretty cool when I saw that Brian was your vocalist.
Yeah. Again, in Dark Sky, we have a pretty decent pedigree of musicians that are involved, and I had met Brian. He was singing for Vicious Rumors. We played a festival together in Germany, and we hit it off, and then bumped into him at the airport, and he rescued me and got me back to the States safely. So it was great. But listen, Vicious Rumors, I can't say enough good things about. Obviously, the band's got a 40-year longevity. So
yeah, they just came through Arizona a couple months ago, and I was able to catch them up in Phoenix.
Were they with Clovenhoof at the time?
Yes. Yep. And that was the first time I ever saw Clovenhoof, dude. Those guys, oh, what a killer show.
Oh, yeah, great band. And their singer, George Cole, he's a Texas boy. They're, I knew him with, oh, my God, I'm going to freaking blank out on the name of the band, Aska. I met him in Germany playing another festival when he was in Aska. So
you meet a lot of people
crazy.
In Germany.
Yeah, I definitely do. Well, I've been there a handful of times, and I was fortunate enough to play there, and I still have some friends in that area. And we're hoping to get Dark Sky over to Europe because I think we'll make some noise. We've been really lucky on the tours that we've done. The bands that we play with, they usually have a good following, and oddly enough, which isn't always the case, an early following, so that when we go on stage at 7:30, there's a decent amount of people there. Yeah. And by the time the show's over, then they end up being at our merch booth to pick up the CDs and pick up a shirt and stuff like that.
So that's the cool thing. That's when you made an impression on the audience when they come and buy your stuff. Now, let me just tell you this, dude. If you can get hooked up with David Hasselhoff in Germany, you'll be golden.
Oh, completely.
Some people just don't get that reference, and I brought that up just the other day. I was up in Phoenix, and I interviewed Flotsam and Jetsam. You, of course, know Flotsam and Jetsam, right? I mean, Jason Newsted. Jason Newsted came out of Flotsam.
Jason Newsted came out of.
That's right.
And I had kind of thought when he left Metallica he was going to go back to them permanently, but I don't know what ended up ever happening.
There was some talk he was going to go back, and then I don't know what happened either.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, but yeah.
I think he needed a break. Listen, he worked his ass off. Metallica's a really hard-working band.
Yeah.
And I don't know the stories at all, but he said he didn't feel like part of the band after a while. He was, even 20 years in, he felt like the new guy. So, who's to say?
Well, his name does have new in it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, I mean, how do you get away from that?
It's kind of tough. You'll never be an original guy, and
you're the new guy because your last name is Newstead. Oh my God! What do you do, Fred? What do you do?
Unless you change your last name.
Yeah. But I digress. All right, so anyway, so yeah, if you guys can, I mean, how did you do over there? Okay, wait a minute. Let's back up again. So, Dark Sky Choir has not been to Europe yet. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay,
Dark
so
Sky Choir has only been around for 2 years. I was in a band called Explorer with 2 X's for many years. I guess probably about 20.
Now, is anybody in that band that I would recognize name-wise, or maybe?
Probably not. Explorer had a good underground following, but there's no famous people in it.
Was it Jersey?
Yeah, Jersey band.
Okay, so you know, of course, TT Quick.
Yes.
Are you friends with them?
Yeah, I know them. I know them pretty well. I mean, I know Dave and I know Mark. I mean, I can't call them up and say, "Hey, come on over."
Right.
But anytime I bump into them, they're they recognize me. They're always very nice.
That's
to me.
cool. Because
I was opening for TT Quick in the 80s.
Now, see, that's badass. Because like Medal of Honor and oh my god, dude, I got into them way back in the day. And when I saw Mark get taken up by Accept, I was like, dude, there you go. There you go.
He's doing a killer job of it too, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was so happy to see them because I never got to see them back in the day with Udo, and finally got to see them at a show up in Phoenix about, probably 7 or 8 years ago, and I'll name drop here. Robert Mason came with me, who is now the current singer of Warrant, and he's from Jersey. Now, did you ever know?
Really?
Yeah, did you ever know him back in the day?
I did not know him, unless I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I don't think I knew him.
So anyway, it was cool. He kind of knew Mark from back in the day too. So we talked to him, and it was really cool to meet Wolf Hoffman and Herman Frank, and even Peter Baltus, however you say it, Baltz, whatever.
Yes.
It was badass.
Yeah, they're a great band.
Oh my God,
and Mark's doing a killer job of it. He was perfect to step into that spot.
Yeah, I don't know.
I saw them back in the day with Udo. Actually, I saw them twice in one night. I went to Radio City Music Hall to see Kiss, and Accept was the opening band. And then after they got done playing opening for Kiss, they played at L'Amour in Brooklyn. So we left to go check out Accept play a second set as they headlined L'Amour that same night, which was crazy.
Oh, that'd be great. I said,
it was awesome.
I wish I could have seen them back in the day. Now, here's some trivia, not trivia, but history for you. Back to Flotsam and Jetsam, another good buddy of mine, Ken Mary, monster drummer. He actually filled in a little bit on tour with Accept.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, but he did. Yeah.
I didn't know it, so it's definitely some valuable information. Not that I'm an encyclopedia of that kind of stuff, but it's definitely cool, something that I didn't know.
And the other thing is, going back to Accept, and let me ask you this, did you like the Eat the Heat record with David Reese?
I thought it was good.
But it wasn't quite Accept. It's kind of like when John Corabi did that Motley Crue album. It was an amazing album.
It was fantastic.
Isn't it?
Fantastic.
But it's not really Motley Crue.
Listen, that record is probably the best one that says Motley Crue on it.
That's the
maybe not. I can't really say that because I'm not a huge Crue fan, but they obviously had their impact and had some extremely memorable songs. I mean, a Motley Crue song comes on the radio and it's stuck in your head. They had some great hooks.
Well, I would stand by Shout at the Devil for sure.
Yeah, it's a great album.
I think that's a really solid
the one that they did with Corabi is a fantastic album.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
It really is.
And I actually saw them on tour on that, the tour for that, and that was cool.
Did you really? That's cool.
Yeah.
I ended up meeting Corabi and the rest of the band in Dead Daisies. I was at a radio station and doing an interview, and they were interviewing right before us. So saw them on my way out. On my way in while they were on their way out. So it was kind of cool.
Now let me ask you this. Okay, Dead Daisies, great, straight up, hard hitting rock and roll. With one of my favorite guitar players, Doug Aldrich.
Oh, Doug is fantastic. I remember him from playing with Dio and then Whitesnake, and watching the DVD of him doing his solo with in the Dio show, and I'm like, oh my God, who is this guy? And he's obviously fantastic. He's a great player.
That leads me to this question: who are your influences?
Wow. The list is long and varied, but if I had to go for like the top, initially, I would have to say Ace Frehley was my first major like guitar influence. I wanted to be a musician because of Johnny Cash. I saw him on TV when I was a little kid, and I thought he was
Really?
cool as hell. You know, all dressed in black
Right.
with a black guitar, and I remember he was singing on TV, and the only thing that I remembered, because I was really young, was the tuning pegs were shining because of the lights in whatever studio they recorded the TV, and I was like, that's cool. And but the first rock and roll guy would have to be Ace Frehley, and so I started playing and you know, listening to Kiss and stuff like that. And then I discovered a band called Rainbow.
Yeah.
And Richie Blackmore instantly, you know, took over as the god. And then I found out, you know, maybe a year or two later that Richie had used to be in another band called Deep Purple. So I went back and, you know, re-upped all that catalog. And then I guess the natural transition, and when Van Halen 1 came out, my friend he had a boombox. I'm going to age myself. And he had a cassette of Van Halen 1, and we were on the school bus, and he put it on. And when Eruption came on, I just almost wanted to die, because I was, you know, struggling to learn Angus Young's guitar solos and stuff. And then all of a sudden that got thrown into the mix, and I was like, oh my God.
You and everybody else, right?
No doubt. And then, you know, after I finally recovered from that, then Yngwie hit the scene.
Oh, jeez.
A few years later, when he was in Steeler.
Oh,
Steeler,
very,
and then
very
Alcatraz.
So
and
that's
then
cool.
Rising Force.
That's cool. You actually got familiarized yourself with Yngwie in Steeler.
Yes, absolutely. When that solo he did before Hot on Your Heels, I just like, oh my God. And yeah, that got my blood going, man. I love that stuff. Some people are like, you know, the guy's playing fast, play fast. He doesn't just play fast, man. I don't need to defend Yngwie, but he's fantastic, man. What he does, you could talk about the attitude, you could talk about any of that shit. Listen, he's fucking great.
Okay, here's more rock history for you.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Edwards played drums in Steeler at the time. Mark Edwards went on to be in Lion with Doug Aldrich.
Wow.
Boom, Fred.
Again, I didn't know that. You're just a plethora of knowledge.
And there's a $10 word for you, Fred. Plethora. Thank you. Yeah. I love it when you use words like that, or anybody uses words like that. It reminds me of David Letterman. A virtual cornucopia. A plethora.
Yes.
Which, by the way, okay, you said age yourself. We got to be pretty close. How old are you?
I'm 53.
Okay, I'm right behind you at 50. All right, then. So pretty much the same era.
Yes.
That, again, the fact that you brought up Steeler, because I went backwards in time. If I remember correctly, I think I found the Rising Force album first and then went back to Steeler, or it could have been right around the same time, because I was big into vinyl. I worked at a record store. So
cool.
All my paychecks went to records and stuff. And
yeah, mine too.
Right?
Definitely mine too.
And, you know, I've kind of become friends with Ron Keel, and he's actually kind of doing a thing right now with Keel, the Ron Keel Band, and Steeler, all in one bill.
Wow, I loved Keel, and listen, I always dug his voice, man. It was great, and killer songs, too.
Now, here's, again, more history. A lot of people don't know this. Maybe they do more so now. But he actually auditioned for and got it, for a second, Black Sabbath.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, he's got a cool story about that. But
Very awesome.
Keel, you know, okay, now here's something else for you. Motley Crue, when I grew up, again, 3 years behind you, I graduated in 86. I grew up in Utah, but my formative teenage years were in Idaho Falls, Idaho, city of like 55,000 people. If we were lucky, a band would come through like Dio or Van Halen or, you know, down to the Mini Dome at the college in Pocatello, or it was Salt Lake City or Boise to go see bands, right? So when I finally moved to Tucson, to me, it was a big city. And back in the day, this was when Tucson and Phoenix were both, you know, stops for bands. They'd hit Tucson, and then Phoenix, or Phoenix, and then Tucson. And the first time I ever got to see Keel and Motley Crue was on the Girls, Girls, Girls tour. And I think it began here in Tucson, and Keel opened up. And honestly, I was a little more excited to see Keel open up for Motley Crue.
Listen, I loved Ron Keel's voice. I thought the songs were great on the Steeler record, so that tipped me off to who he was. And I obviously followed Yngwie's career after that, you know, into Alcatraz and then Rising Force. And I actually saw Rising Force in concert with Talus as the opening band.
Oh, dude, there's another band.
Billy Sheehan's Talus.
Oh my gosh! Now, who was playing guitar? Was it Mitch Perry at the time, or?
You know what? You're gonna hate me, but I don't remember who was playing guitar at the time.
That's all right. The fact that you got to see Billy back in the day would be amazing to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
And I opened for the Winery Dogs about 5-6 years ago.
Oh my gosh, you got to. What about that Richie Kotzen fella? Huh?
Oh my God. He's so good, it's ridiculous.
It's like, what the hell is he doing?
Nice as can be, and really personable. And I was asking him about his amps and stuff, and he took the time to talk to me about him, and not pretentious at all. And the guy's just an incredible guitar player. And the one thing that people may not mention a whole lot, you can't ignore it, that his voice is just incredible.
Oh, absolutely. You probably don't want to talk to him about Poison, but what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't talk to him about Poison.
Right. You know what I'm talking about.
That didn't end well.
Exactly. But yeah, Richie. Oh my gosh. So, all right. If you like that kind of style, do you go back to like Jeff Beck?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff Beck's an alien.
Oh yeah, right.
Jeff Beck, Gary Moore.
Oh, dude, Gary Moore, one of my all-time favorites.
Man.
You know what's interesting? I sat down with Vivian Campbell for a second. First time I ever met him was like last year for the Last in Line. I was like, dude, one of the reasons I love you so much was you were heavily influenced by Gary Moore. I love Gary Moore. And I said, one thing about him, though, I never got to see him live. And Vivian goes, you know what? Neither did I. I'm like, you're kidding.
Wow.
I would have thought they even probably jammed together sometime.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I figured. But,
pretty trippy, huh?
They were kind of, Viv was younger, younger than Gary.
Yeah.
So maybe they weren't really contemporaries. That would kind of be like, me jamming with Richie Sambora just because he's from Jersey. I don't know him. I never met him or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, actually. So I just thought it was kind of interesting, though.
Yeah, that's definitely. I would have figured that they would have at least known each other.
Yeah.
Because, he was obviously still alive while Vivian got big. Vivian made a name for himself, and then, Gary was still alive for quite a while.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorites.
Guitar players.
One of my favorites, man.
Yeah, I always try and seek out phenomenal guitar players or guitar players that are at least good or doing something interesting. You know what I mean?
What else influences you musically? Like, what's caught your ear in the past couple of years?
I've always been a classical fan.
Okay.
It's probably because of the neoclassical connection with Blackmore and Yngwie and Michael Schenker.
Oh, there's another one, man. Schenker, absolutely.
And Yuli Roth as well.
Oh, dude, you're naming all these guitarists I absolutely love.
Yeah, I mean, we actually did a cover, and we recorded it on the first album, the first Dark Sky album. We did a cover of Sails of Sharon.
Yeah, that's a favorite of a lot of people. You know who else loved that? Is JD from Black Label Society.
I went to high school with JD.
No way. Well, anyway, I had him in the studio up in Phoenix, and it was like, all right, dude, pick a song that you want me to play, and he picked that. Yeah.
Well, I totally understand. We all grew up on hearing that stuff, especially the old Scorpion stuff from like In Trance and Virgin Killer.
Oh, dude.
I mean, that's my era. I remember getting Virgin Killer on vinyl as a Christmas present. My mom actually went out and bought an album called Virgin Killer for me for Christmas.
But it wasn't the import. It wasn't the import cover, right?
Yes, it was.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wow.
She knew the record store that I went to and knew that I liked the Scorpions, and she got that, and that was wrapped up. I knew it was an album, obviously. It was pretty easy to tell that you got albums for Christmas and stuff. So Mom's been dead for a bunch of years now, but thanks so much for putting up with all my shit and buying me Virgin Killer for Christmas.
That's some motherly love right there.
Absolutely.
Now, going back to Ace and then Richie, from what I saw with your playing, I would have never thought you were really influenced by Ace, but I can definitely see the Uli and the Richie and even a little bit of Yngwie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily play like Ace. One thing that I definitely think I took from him, and Yngwie as well, because Yngwie has an incredible ear for melody. But the one thing that always stuck in my mind about Kiss songs is when Ace Frehley did a guitar solo, you could sing it back because it was worked out. It was, the guitar solos fit the songs. So while I get into that shred thing and the alternate string skipping and tapping and all that, I also like to put melody lines in between. Like Ingve will do a really nice melody line and then rip your face off and then go back to a really nice melody line. I kind of try and phrase my solos that way, and it's a conscious effort because nobody wants to hear me just wanking off for 30 seconds during a solo. At least do something that's going to fit the song and fit the chord changes that are going around behind it.
You know who I just or a tour I just saw was that Generation Axe.
Oh man,
with Ingve,
Steve Vai and Ingve and Zach and Tobin.
Yes, and I gotta tell you, Ingve was like extra on fire. He was so freaking precise, dude. But
ridiculous,
if I had to pick anybody, honestly, I would go with Zach.
Yeah, Zach's a fantastic.
I just love Zach's.
I did know Zach back in the day.
Okay.
Just briefly, to say hi in the clubs and stuff like that. And even at 19 years old, he was a freak of nature. He was blowing everybody's doors off.
Yeah.
And I'd run into him a bunch of years later when Black Label was rehearsing in the same studio that we were rehearsing in, and so I'd hanging out in the common area where you can get coffee and get a soda and some chips and stuff like that. So he was at, and I talked to him for a few minutes, and super nice guy, totally approachable.
He's great.
A monster guitar player.
Yeah. Isn't it funny though how he kind of morphed from this pretty boy into this Viking biker mountain man dude?
Yeah, he put on a few pounds and grew a beard and kept working out, so he's a lot thicker than he was. But he hasn't lost a step on the guitar, that's for sure.
Well, dude, I was able to see him on the No Rest for the Wicked tour with Vixen and White Lion opening up.
Wow.
How about that? And when Zach came out, takes his shirt off, he's got his leather pants on with the bell bottoms, and he just starts swinging his head back and forth, and then he goes into his extended solo. He's playing behind his head, in between his legs. It was like,
absolutely.
Man, he tears that up. Love that guy.
He was an animal, and he was doing all of that shit at 19, man. Killing everybody.
Well, you've seen that video, right, that finally came up on YouTube of him, in high school?
Yep.
At some talent show or something. It's like, oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
he was ridiculous. And his guitar teacher, and now that you brought up TT Quick, his guitar teacher was Dave DiPietro from TT Quick.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but yeah, that is right.
Absolutely.
It's crazy how...
And bringing up Steve Vai. Steve Vai was another one that kind of caught me and blew my doors off because my friend had I don't know whether it was a bootleg or he had a cassette of Steve Vai's Flexible.
Oh, yeah.
When he was in college. And I remember Little Green Men. We would sit there and just get stoned and listen to Little Green Men and go, this guy's fucking ridiculously good. And so I followed him, obviously. I think he's just incredible.
He's another alien, dude. He's an alien.
He absolutely is.
Yep. I was able to see him in David Lee Roth, or with David Lee Roth.
Nice.
And in White Snake, and I've seen him solo, and geez. And, dude, it blew me away because I didn't know he was in the movie Crossroads. And the first time I saw it, I was like, hey, that's freaking Steve Vai. And I wanted him to win, dude.
Yeah, I know. Anytime I watch it, I still hope he's going to win.
Right?
And the thing is at the very end where, he's playing the devil and the devil fucks up at the end of the song. You could tell it was so hard for him to, it was almost impossible for him to fuck up.
Right.
Because he hit those couple of sour notes at the end of it. And it was like, I hate to, you know what? It would be a total compliment if I said it to him. I would just say it was an unbelievable screw up. I don't believe you could screw up that bad.
Yeah, right.
Because he played both parts. People think that Ralph Macchio did that other part, but that was all Steve Vai.
I'm not sure I've ever seen him make a mistake, and if he does, I don't know it.
Yeah, he covers them up. I'm sure he makes them, but he probably makes a lot fewer than anybody else.
All right, so you're talking about classical music. Anything else out there? Like, you mentioned Dead Daisies. I'm sure you like that. Kind of bluesy, hard rock and stuff.
So listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan and Robert Cray and all those cats. I spent spent a lot of time, maybe not necessarily studying them, but, comping their licks and learning songs and playing them out in cover bands. And, but I actually had tickets to see Stevie Ray, and then he died. So I never got a chance to see him live, but
Oh,
I did
bummer.
he was supposed to play around here, and then I had tickets for a couple of weeks, and then that's when the plane crash happened, and
Yeah.
obviously the tour didn't continue on to Jersey.
I remember reading about that, about the helicopter going down and him
Yeah.
being dead. I'm like, God, there goes another one. And the sad thing is, the story goes, he'd cleaned up. He was leading a
Yeah, I
sober
heard
life
that.
and really kicking some ass, and then boom, it's all taken away.
Yep.
And it just kind of sucks. But I always say, we got left with some killer music. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah, we absolutely
and be
did.
glad
No
we
question
got
about
it.
that.
Be thankful we got it. Another guy, I don't know if you like him or not, but I'll mention him, Eric Johnson.
Oh yeah. Listen, I'm not real up on all of his material,
Right.
but when Cliffs of Dover came out, it was just like the beginning solo before he actually goes into the opening riff of the song is probably one of the greatest moments in guitar. It's just incredible.
Well, what was cool about him, I saw him in Tucson here at a rock club. It's called the Tucson Garden. It was just one of those badass clubs, like, the LA scene. It was what that was, here in Tucson, right? It was pretty much the place. Guns N' Roses played there. Everybody from like even Melissa Etheridge back in the day to, Megadeth, I think, played there, and just, all sorts of styles. But that was back in the day when you had these Southwestern touring bands that weren't really nationals per se, and they'd do these little runs. They'd play like Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And you'd get another one the next week and another one the next week. And then we'd get, the national acts coming in. Well, I was fortunate enough to work there, so I was there during sound check, and it was really interesting to me to watch Eric Johnson sit there, and he knows the spectrum of sound. He's like, hey, can you boost up the 2K a little bit more?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Stuff like that. It just, I was like, wow.
I was talking to John Moyer about just that thing about 3 weeks ago. And there is a course or something. I have to get the information from him about learning how to recognize those sound frequencies, because I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know what 2K sounds like, and there's an ear training course that you can teach yourself to do. And John's a producer, so he's pretty up on that kind of thing. But there is an actual training course that you can teach yourself to recognize the sound spectrum, and it comes in handy if you're producing or if you're doing live sound, or you're sometimes my monitor sounds great, sometimes it doesn't, and what, if I know what to tell the monitor guy, do me a favor, take some of that 4K out because it's sounding too honky, you know what I mean? You get that duck quack through the monitor speakers. It does inhibit your playing for sure.
And then the sound guy gets all pissed. Who the fuck
yes,
is you?
And then he gets all pissed off.
Don't ever tell a
sound guy.
Yeah, don't tell a sound guy how to mix. Hell no.
No, hell no.
Oh, cool. Another thing I wanted to bring up was the recent addition of Chris Green.
Yes.
In Wizards from Taiketo.
Yes.
How much has he brought to Wizards?
He's brought a lot, man. He's a great guy. So I mean, we got along. We hit it off right away, and he's a great guitar player. And we had a lot of fun. I mean, that's a big thing that just ended up started happening. And I think Greg started doing it. Is, when we're bouncing around from one side of the stage to the other, if I'm standing next to him or he's standing next to me, while we're playing, one of us will reach over and hit the other guy's toggle switch and then run on the other side of the stage. It's like, God damn it, you got me. Yeah, it doesn't screw anything up, but it definitely changes the tone a little bit, and you absolutely notice it immediately.
Yeah, when you're in neck and he flips you to bridge or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and we became fast friends pretty quickly.
Well, he playing in Taiketo. Did you ever listen to Danny Vaughn, who sang in Taiketo, when he sang with Wasted? Of course, Pete Way from UFO.
Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with Wasted. I do remember Taiketo from back in the day because I used to play with Taiketo at Lemoore all the time, my old band in Taiketo.
Because they were out in New York, right?
Yeah, they were out of New York.
Yeah.
And they were signed to the same management company as White Lion. It was the guys that owned Lemoore in Brooklyn. They signed White Lion, and they also signed Taiketo.
It's kind of crazy how it's like a circle. it's like the 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, you do it long enough, and you end up, bumping into people all the time. An odd thing is I remember talking about Ingve again. We'll go back, and then it's going to go somewhere where you're not going to expect. But I remember when Ingve was in Alcatraz, I was 17, and they were playing at a club maybe 2 miles from my house. So I went there to check out Alcatraz, and I couldn't get in because I was not old enough, and they didn't accept my fake ID there because it was packed. But the band that was opening for Alcatraz that night is a band called Steel Fortune, and they later on turned out to be Skid Row.
No way.
Yeah, and I've known Dave from Skid Row for God knows how many years. I mean, at least since I'm 16, 17, because they used to play the local club scene around here, and my buddy's band used to play against their band in Battle of the Bands and stuff like that, and I just bumped into Dave because we played at a festival in Montana with them, with Dark Sky Choir. And so I bumped into them. They were playing the same festival. We were on the second stage. They were on the main stage, Rocking the Rivers Festival. And I believe we're going back there this year because we did get an invitation to come back. So, but that's weird how it all connects.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder if that's why when you said Steel Fortune, it kind of rang a bell, but it was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Steel Fortune ended up being turning into Skid Row. Wasn't all the same members, but Dave was definitely in Steel Fortune. And I'm still good friends with the bass player Mike Uhas, who was in Steel Fortune, and not sure if I think he had gotten out by the time they turned into Skid Row.
Did you ever get to know Sebastian Bach personally?
I never got to know him personally. I did meet him a couple of times. I was actually there the night that they auditioned him. They auditioned him live at a club called Mingles.
Oh, that would have been cool.
They had flown him in, brought him right down to the club, and he had his hair standing up straight like he was when he was in Madam X. And
there you go. I was wondering if you knew about that. Cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he got on stage, and I got to be honest, Skid Row was already playing around heavily with their prior singer Matt Fallon, who ended up going to Anthrax for a couple minutes. But he was also a great singer, Matt. But when they brought Sebastian in, there was some other band that was playing downstairs at Mingles. They brought him in, and they asked the band that was playing if they could come up and play a couple of songs. They had a singer with them. They were going to audition, and they auditioned him live in front of an audience, and he tore the fucking place up.
Well, when he's on, dude, he's on.
Oh, my God. I knew the minute I fucking saw him, this guy's going straight to the top. He had everything. He had the charisma. He had the rap. He had the vocals. He tore it up.
He's like a cartoon.
It was before the album came out, obviously, and I'd gotten the demo. They auditioned him, I think, with Rattlesnake Shake and maybe Youth Gone Wild and Big Guns or something like that. But I think they did 3 or 4 songs. And then Dave came up to me and goes, I think we found our new singer. I said, you're crazy if you didn't, because that guy just killed everybody in this club. He destroyed the place.
That would be so cool to see him audition with the songs that then went on to the record.
Yeah, I actually ran into Sebastian maybe 5 or 6 years ago in another club that got built on the ashes of that first club that the audition. The place was called Mingles. It ended up catching fire years later, and then somebody rebuilt the club. And I'd gone to see JD's band at the time, and Sebastian was there, and he was standing at the bar, and I walked up to him, and I introduced myself to him, and he was very nice and polite, not like some people say. And I said, just a little bit of information. I just want to let you know, I saw you audition for Skid Row downstairs in the club that used to be here. And he's like, dude, get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, yeah, I was here that night, killed it. And it was odd. It was definitely it was a moment in time, and I knew immediately. Everybody that was there was just like, holy fuck, what just happened?
Right. I could imagine. Because first of all, he's tall, and he's like a cartoon character.
Yeah,
hey man, he's just a lot of fun. Every time I've talked to him, I even hung out with him for a minute at a show in Phoenix. He was just really cool. But really quick, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I interviewed him on the phone. I was like, hey, dude, I'd really love to meet you when you play Phoenix. He's like, yeah, man, just get with my manager, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it was Dokken, Poison, It was Dokken, Poison, and Sebastian Bach solo, right?
Okay.
So Sebastian Bach comes out, and that was when he had Mike Kloschek, or whatever, the guy from Halford.
Yeah.
And Johnny Chromatic and just a killer band. Bobby Jarzambek
playing drums, I think.
Oh my God, dude! Wow. So anyway, I go on the bus. He's sitting back there with Bobby. He smells a little bit like weed, and he's drinking his wine. Right? Sit down, talk to him. He's like, "Hey man, you want to go see Poison?" I'm like, okay. So we walk through the theater, and it's like Spinal Tap, right? This place up in Phoenix called Comerica Theater now, and it has all these winding hallways and stuff. Right? You could totally get lost. Like in Spinal Tap, we end up on side stage, and I guess he spots a chick that he wants to come backstage, and he sent somebody out to get her. Well, this guy brings back 2 chicks, right? And right in front of him, he's all, "Hey, man, you brought back the wrong chicks." I'm standing there with the date I had, and the chick turns, and she wasn't bad, dude. She was kind of hot. Her friend was but she's all, "What's wrong with me?" But, dude, let me tell you, he kept them back there. At the end of Poison, he's like, "Hey, man, you want to go back on the bus?" And he took them with him. We're like, "Nah, dude, we're cool." But he took him, dude. And there's my Sebastian Bach story.
Very cool. Yeah, he was. I'd met him maybe 3 or 4 times, but I don't know him. I was never friends with him or anything like that. I met him 3 or 4 times, and he was always nice to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, he was always cool as well. I've met him, probably 3 or 4 times, and then that one time just kind of hanging out, and yeah, no problems.
Pretty cool.
Now, back to Dark Sky Choir, and I still can't say it too fast. Dark Sky Choir. Yeah, it's not going to happen, Fred. You got me beat.
Call it DSC. or just call it Dark Sky.
There you go. DSC, what is in the near future? Because Wizards of Winter, pretty much done. So now you're going to probably concentrate on that. Yeah, are you going to come back? Are you going to come back to Tucson, man? We got to get you back.
I think there's a really good possibility. I haven't gotten the itinerary, but we are going to be going on tour again. We have a show in Jersey at a place called the Starland Ballroom. That's coming up on February 9th. And then we're getting ready to hit the road again on April 19th. We're going to be out from April 19th until June 1st. We're going out with a band called Boba Flex.
Oh, yeah. I know the name.
Yep.
Never seen them.
And they do, from what I understand, they do quite a bit of Midwest gigs. So maybe there's a good possibility that I'm going to be in like Tucson, Phoenix area. If we're out for 6 weeks, I'd be very surprised if we're not close to it. But I didn't get the itinerary yet, so I don't know exactly where we're going to be and what parts of the month or what days we're going to be there. But as soon as I do and I find out if we're going to be anywhere near you, I'll definitely shoot you a message and let you know to get the hell out.
Oh, and back to Fozzy. I got to know Rich Ward. Here's another tie-in with you.
Love Richie Ward.
Right? I first met him because I loved Stuck Mojo.
No, Stuck Mojo's fucking
fantastic. Oh my God, dude. I saw them here in Tucson. I did not know who they were. After about the first 3 songs, just the riffs and everything he was doing and the whole band, I was like, all right, I'm a fan. And then when he went on to Adrenaline Mob, I was like, oh my God, dude, that first record and that first tour, that was one of the most energetic bands and shows I've seen in forever, dude.
Oh, hell yeah.
Those guys were up there just tearing it up. And Russell of Symphony X, what a great vocalist.
He could sing anything.
Right.
Oddly enough, right before their accident, we were supposed to be touring with Adrenaline Mob.
Oh man, and see, again,
that tour got canceled.
This is why I try to catch every show, because you never know what the future holds, right?
Yeah,
and I was gonna go to the show in Phoenix, and it was like a few days after the Phoenix show that accident happened.
Yep.
Bummer, dude. Such a bummer.
And the Symphony X tie-in is somebody that I went to high school and I've known since, I guess, 8th grade, is Michael Romeo.
Oh, no way. Dude, that guy.
I used to jam with Mike in his house, in his parents' house, in his dad's house. We used to play in his backyard. We used to play. I remember he had amps and drums set up in his backyard, and he was a good guitar player in school. And then all of a sudden, you kind of get out of high school and doing things and jobs, and so you don't see somebody for a little while. And then he released a Dark Chapter, and I went, what the fuck has he been doing? Obviously practicing.
Woodshedding, as they call it, right?
Yeah, it's odd because his wife works at my son's school.
Oh, no way.
So I've known Mike for, since we were kids, obviously.
Well, I got
sweetheart of a guy.
I got to see Symphony X up in Phoenix, and man, that was a great show. Wow. In
Killer
fact,
band.
I would love to see them again.
Their keyboard player is married to my drummer's sister.
Well, you know what's cool
Mike
is
Finella.
okay. You know Mike LaPond.
Yes, I do.
His Mike LaPond's Assassins.
Mm-hmm.
His side band, which is pretty cool. And I love it
Yes,
when guys like yourself have, like the Wizards of Winter, and then you got another band, and when people break off from their main band to do these other projects, I always dig that.
Yeah, I think it's cool. As long as you're not 19 of them, that's great. Because if you kind of spread yourself a little too thin, it gets difficult to commit yourself. But 2 I think is fine, especially if I don't think I could do 2 full-time touring bands because I think it would get too much in the way.
Yeah.
But the Wizards, it's very convenient because they only tour around Christmas.
So you can totally plan.
Yeah, so I could totally plan around it and say, hey, you know what, we're going to book these tours. We were asked to go out with Fozzy again, but it would have been during the Wizards tour, and I had already committed to doing this year's Wizards tour. So I missed the Canadian run with Fozzy. But, I love Richie Ward, and Chris Jericho was fantastic. And the rest of the band, they were so nice to us. I can't even stress it, how good they were to us.
Yeah, Paul, the bass player, another killer guy that was in Adrenaline Mob.
Oh, absolutely.
With Rich. Really nice guy.
Yes, he is.
That's funny, man. I remember when the first Fozzy record came out, and they were wearing the wigs, and they had the little character names and everything.
Yeah.
And they're finally like, all right, screw it. I'm Chris Jericho. Here's my band. It's called Fozzy.
Yeah, and they exploded, man. Their last album just is killing. They're getting millions of hits, tens of millions of hits, and Judas got, Song Judas just freaking exploded.
Yeah. Well, Chris, he's a solid singer and everything, but he's such a good front man, and he's got such a killer band. And
he's got such a killer band, and the guy does not stop working.
Yeah, he's full of energy, and that just...
Yeah, I mean, he's going all the time.
Yeah.
He works his ass off all day, and he's, you'll catch him, doing podcasts in the production room. He's got this going on. He's got this radio spot that he's got to do, and so jump in the car and go do a radio interview, then come back for sound check, and he's going all freaking day. Seems like the guy goes till 2 a.m. and then wakes up at 4 a.m. and starts over again. His energy level is insane.
Oh, I just thought of something. Here's a little bit of not history, but this was cool. One of my favorite pictures just happened to happen. Nick Bocott from Grim Reaper used to live up in Phoenix, right? And now he works for Marshall, has for quite some time.
Marshall, exactly.
Yeah.
I met him at Name.
And what a cool guy he was. I've always loved Grim Reaper from back in the day, and I became friends with him. There's so many people that live up in the Phoenix Valley, and I became friends with him. And he came down to that show, and we're outside the bus, so it's me, Rich, Chris, Nick, and my girlfriend at the time. And I don't remember who said what, but right when the picture got taken, we're all laughing, and it's the most awesome picture, dude.
Cool.
I don't know why I had to bring that up, but anyway, it's just one of those things that sticks out in your memory, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but Fozzy was a complete pleasure to go out with, and the craziest thing, once again, we were very lucky on that tour. Fozzy's fans are great, and they get there early. I think we played every single night to a packed house, going on at 7:00 at night.
So that's got to be really cool for you.
Yeah, I think there might have been 2 shows where it was like maybe only half full. The rest of the time it was packed, and Fozzy treated us great. There was plenty of times where we were a little tight on real estate because the stage wasn't really huge.
Yeah.
And they would come up to us and go, "You guys want to use our stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." The headliner very rarely offers the opening band to use their gear.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, would you like our back line? Yes.
Yeah, make it easier on all of us. You want to just use our gear? And of course, our techs are thrilled because they don't have to drag all of our gear inside. It's just.
Well,
so it was great. They were. I can't tell you how well they treated us.
So that's cool when you hear stuff like that, because I used to read about it all the time. When I started becoming friends with a lot of these musicians, it turned out it was true back in the day. Especially, you'd have the headliner and the opener. The opener got half the PA, a little bit of lights, a little bit of the stage, and then of course the headliner comes out and they got the full production. And I've heard
I think that's still true. I mean, they're not giving us their light man or their full lights, and usually the PAs are separated. There's two mixes. There's the opening band's mix, and then there's, once the headliner does the sound check, then those settings don't get changed.
Yeah. Well,
you're on a secondary board or whatever, but they never shut us screwed us on sound or anything like that. We got full sound, and however much room was on there, we were able to use. They were great to us.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That's the cool thing. When the band, obviously the headliner, yeah, they're going to get everything, but if they're not being dicks and stuff like that, it's got to make it so much easier on you guys.
Yeah, they didn't stay. They never threw the governor on us. They definitely didn't. And Monster Magnet didn't either. Monster Magnet treated us great. It was cool. We've been very lucky so far. We haven't had anybody that treated us like shit. So.
Now, what's that dude's name from Monster? What's his name again?
Dave?
Yeah, Dave, whatever his last name is.
Windorf?
He's an interesting feller, isn't he?
He is. He seems a little reclusive to a lot of people, but I spoke to him a couple of times, and once again, like, really pleasant and really personable. Maybe I just don't strike people the wrong way, and they are that way with me. But
no, dude, you're a total.
I had a lot of their fans coming up to me going, "We've been trying to meet Dave for 20 years. We can never see him except when he's on stage. Can you get him to sign this for me?" And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. I'm not going to go into their bus and say, "Dave, there's somebody outside that asked me if you could sign this." But, I could see him in between sets, backstage and stuff like that. And super nice, polite, personable guy, and extremely intelligent. And obviously he wrote some incredible music.
So that's weird because you were such a dick to me on the bus. God,
I know. I was a total jerk off.
Anyway, I got to see Monster Magnet open up for Rob Zombie. That was a freaking good show, dude. That was back when Rob Zombie first came around on the first record.
Mm-hmm.
So they were just hitting it. And to see Monster Magnet open up, that was just a badass show. And it was a place in Mesa, up in the valley, called Mesa Amphitheater. So it's literally an outdoor amphitheater. Yeah. And when Living Dead Girl came on, this is back, when he had all the chicks coming up there, taking off their tops. It was quite the show.
I'm sure it was. Yeah, he's another one. I mean, I wasn't influenced by him, but his guitar player, John 5, is just
that guy.
Another freak of nature. He's fantastic.
I had known who he was under his other name, John Lowry, when he played on that David Lee Roth album, which that's when I was like, dude, this guy's really freaking good.
He's another monster guitar player.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of them out there.
Well, cool, dude. What else you want to mention, man? We got to get some links in there, your social media and website.
Absolutely.
Can't forget that.
You go to www.darkskychoir.com, and then we do have a Dark Sky Choir Instagram and Dark Sky Choir on Facebook. You can check us out on obviously on iTunes and Spotify, and we're Amazon, and right now we are an independent band. We're not on a label or connected with a label, but there's a possibility that may change. There's some things going on right now, but I'm not going to jinx them by talking about them. I'm hopeful that some good news will be coming in that area. And then, catch us out with Bobaflex sometime between April 19th and June 1st. Don't know exactly where we're going yet, but I'll fill you in on that as soon as I get the information.
Yeah, dude, if you can at least come to Phoenix, man, I'll definitely try to come up. Because, again, I'm
hoping. I'm definitely hoping. I think it's a good possibility, though, because I know they do quite a bit of shows in the Midwest, and we're going to be out for a good 6 weeks with them. So I think there's a good possibility we're going to be in the area.
Because, again, I'm so bummed I missed you with Fozzy.
You'll catch us again. Don't worry. We'll be out there again.
And, of course, the Wizards of Winter. I'm really glad I went to that show.
Yeah, I'm glad you came to it. It's an interesting show. It's a fun night, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. My buddy and everybody else I know liked it, so it was a good time. And then the hang after was amazing.
The hang is always better, no doubt.
That was a good time for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I had a blast.
All right, anything else you want to mention? It's all you, buddy.
That's about it, man. Check out Dark Sky Choir. Check out the Wizards of Winter, and follow me on my regular personal Facebook. It's filled up, but you can follow me on Facebook. You can find me on the Dark Sky website, and you can find out how to find me on Facebook or Instagram, and keep up on what's going on. And the new video will be out sometime in February. We're going to debut it on February 9th at the Starland Ballroom, and then we'll release that for public consumption on YouTube and stuff like that.
Public consumption, I like that.
Public consumption.
as opposed to private consumption.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Fred Gorhau, guitarist extraordinaire, Wizards of Winter, and DSE, Dark Sky Choir. Thank you so much for putting up with my nonsense.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.